Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last 2 years or so, mainly New England hazy IPAs. In fact, the last review that I did from this brewery was the first beer that wasn't that style that I had from them, and it was really nice actually. But I always keep an eye on the different beers that these guys are releasing, and we're going to have a look at one of their latest ones today. So looking forward to it. For this review then, we are going to go to a wee place called Nora, which is to the north of Örebro, out to the west of Stockholm, and we're going to have a look at yet another beer from Apex Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called the Trident. It comes in at 6.5% ABV, and as you might have guessed already, this one is another New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So this beer was released as part of the Local Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for July of 2021, and I think this must be about my 12th or so review that I've done from this brewery now. It feels like a little bit longer than normal since I've reviewed a beer from these guys, but I think that is just because the last beer was their Kellerpils, which, like I say, was very nice, but it feels like a wee while since I've had something from Apex, just because you always associate with this brewery with the New England hazies, of course. But they are starting to experiment with different styles now, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they do that. I would love to see these guys have a go at some West Coasters as well, and a red IPA or something. A black IPA would also be a really interesting proposition from Apex Brewing Company as well. But like I say, definitely one of the Swedish breweries you want to check out if you're interested in the New England hazies. They really do very, very well with this style. So fingers crossed this is another good one, and like I say, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. Let's crack on with the review then. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are there in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Apex Brewing Company before, and you will no doubt see more added to that in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Apex Brewing Company. So, Apex Brewing Company, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in a little place called Nora, which is to the north of Örebro, out to the west of Stockholm, and this company was founded back in 2017 by Daniel Gatchitz and Niklas Lundgren. So both of these guys are musicians, and this is a common thing in Sweden that musicians get into brewing beer, but Niklas played in the band 59 Times the Pain, and Daniel has played in the band Voice of a Generation. I still need to check those two out. I say that in every review, but I'm still yet to do it. I need to get on that. But Daniel and Niklas are responsible for the brewing operations, but there are a few others involved at the company as well. This is Leif Carlson, Ola Eriksson and Roger Hjelm. But these guys started off with a 500-litre brew kit and 6 fermentation tanks, and they were just selling their beers in the local area before getting them into Systembolaget. And I think the very first beer I tried from these guys was the single hop, and that might have been in about 2018 or so, and it was lovely actually, and that was what really got me on to this brewery. It was recommended to me by somebody who was following the channel. But in 2018 they brewed around 35,000 litres of beer over the course of the year, with about 25 different varieties, and all of them were New England hazy IPAs, and they increased that to brew around 120,000 litres over the course of 2019. Some interesting developments happening with Apex recently though. In the summer of 2021, this year, they announced that they were going to move to a new premises in the Betorp area of Örebro in the autumn. So the brewery will see them upgrade their 500-litre brew kit to a 2,000-litre kit. They've got several new tanks coming in, and they are going to increase their output quite dramatically on the back of that. So exciting times ahead for Apex Brewing Company, of course. But as of July 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 80 different beers according to Untappd, and that's, you know, a fairly interesting number, a fairly substantial number, should we say, when they only started up in 2017. That's at least 2 beers a month over the last kind of 4 years or so. So pretty good going for them, I have to say. But yeah, like I said, this brewery mainly known for their New England hazy IPAs, but we are starting to see a few more things from them over the last little while. So long may that continue, but definitely a brewery you want to check out if you like your hazy IPAs. But that's all I can really tell you about Apex Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get cracking with the tasting section of this beer then. So let's go for it. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is your usual interesting sort of Illuminati type thing, as I always call it, from Apex Brewing. They've always got the kind of Apex pyramids, I guess you could say, on this one. There you can see on the back, Trident IPA. But yeah, 6.5% ABV this one. 440ml can. As usual, I paid 45 Swedish kroners for this, so that's €4.50, £4 sterling, somewhere in the region of $5.25, $5.50 American, just to give those here a price reference for across the world. And this is the standard price you'll pay for a single New England hazy IPA and a West Coast IPA, around 6.5%. They do go up a little bit the higher the alcohol content. Of course, you'll probably pay about 50, maybe 55 for a double, depending on what the alcohol percentage is, of course. But the stats of this beer, which I took from Untappd as well. This one is hopped with Sabro, Citra and Mosaic, which we know quite well. All American hops. Citra and Mosaic both come in about 14% alpha acid. Sabro is, I think, 16, if I remember rightly. But Sabro's got a lovely orangey note to it, a little bit of coconut. Mosaic likewise has this kind of big oily orange tangerine note to it. Citra, lots of mango and a good kind of lemon-limey quality, and some other complexities in there as well. But all big American hops nonetheless. And the malt base in this one is Maris Otter Extra Pale, chip malt, torrefied oats, and maltodextrin. So yeah, this I think should be a very, very nice one actually. But yeah, looking forward to it. It's also a WLP 66 London fog yeast in this one. But yeah, there you can see the Leviathan with his trident, which is always cool. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll go on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what it has in store for us. And obviously a little bit of an explosion there. My finger slipped off the ring. There we go. That's another one for the blooper reel. But anyway, the beer is okay. There we are. I've not had the best luck with beers recently. I had that Vienna lager that kind of semi-exploded on me recently. But at least this one was just a little bit of a pop of the can. Thumb lost the grip on it there. But yeah, there we are. So let me just put that there. So there we are. Anyway, as you can see, and as you would expect from a New England IPA, it's got a lovely, very bright mango juice coloured yellow character to it. Before the head disappears, we can see that it's poured with, I'd say about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say very slightly creamy coloured head. I don't think this one is quite a perfect white. It definitely has a little bit of a kind of creamy ivory type tint to it. But yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But I mean, overall, it does look very, very nice, this one. And as I say, lovely, very bright mango juice colour, this one. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. This determines the magnitude of the colour. 2, the length of your wort boil. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar's caramelised, thus you get a darker colour of beer. A New England IPA will have a wort boil between 60 and 90 minutes normally. You can do more, but then any adjuncts and barrel aging will of course play a role in the colour as well, but that usually happens when it comes to sour beers, of course. The New England IPAs, and any IPA to be honest with you, it tends to be the type of malts that you use, and to a degree the wort boil as well. But yeah, in terms of a New England IPA, nothing particularly surprising about its appearance. In terms of the level of haziness that you get from this one, definitely not one of the superior and gloopier New England IPAs that you're going to come across. It's got a little bit more of that kind of natural haze type vibe to it. So yeah, it looks the part. I really like how it kind of goes together in this one. But remember, the level of haze in these New England IPAs depends on 1, the wheat, and 2, the oats, and the yeast, I guess, can play a role in there as well. So yeah, it can vary from brewery to brewery and recipe to recipe, of course. But yeah, certainly looks like a New England IPA, this one. I think it's about time that we crack into the aroma of this. So nothing surprising about the appearance of this beer when you consider what style it is. Aroma time then. Looking forward to this. Ooh, that does smell quite nice. It does smell quite a bit different actually from what I remember the other Apex ones. But you know, you get this impression if you don't have something from a brewery for quite a wee while, it will come out it'll come out a little bit differently. But you know, there is a little bit of the old Apex nostalgia to this beer as well, I would say. But yeah, I've always found that these Apex brewing beers, they've got a little bit of a sort of farmhousey, kind of crackery, woody sort of base to them, and you get that out of this beer as well straight away. But it does smell a little bit. The fruit smells a little bit more different, and I think that's probably because of the Sabro. To be honest with you, I think this is my first beer from Apex Brewing that has Sabro in it. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. But yeah, as I've said, you can take a New England IPA in 6 directions, in my opinion. It can be more farmhousey and yeasty. It can be a bit more kind of grainy and rye leaning, such as the Alchemist beers. They can be wheaty and bitey like Trillium, oaty and creamy like Treehouse. They can be, you know, more barley malt leaning and bready if you like, and they can also be a little bit more brown sugary leaning as well. I think, you know, these beers, as I say, from Apex tend to be a little bit sort of farmhousey and kind of crackery, but you get a nice kind of soft yeasty character and usually a bit of wheat and oats. But the aroma of the malt base smells quite different to the actual flavour that you'll get out of the beer. But yeah, I really like how this one goes about its business in that sense. So the backbone of the beer, as I say, you get a little bit of that kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of Smørrebrød. No, Smørrebrød is probably the wrong one. Knäckebrød, that's it. You get a little bit of that Knäckebrød, Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing in the backbone of this beer. There's one or two very, very slightly woody notes in there, but you get that very airy kind of yeasty note out of the beer. Definitely some soft white bread in there though. You do get a wee bit of wheaty bitiness out of the beer though. At the back of the nose there's definitely a wee bit of that wheaty bitiness, but as I say, backbone, crackers, a little bit of the kind of softer yeasty note. You can smell the wheat kind of smoothing out the middle part of the nose in this beer as well. But you do get a wee bit of oaty sort of sweetness out of this. The oats actually come across as quite light in this beer, and it just has a very kind of slight sweetness to it in that sense as well. I do get a little bit of a kind of Werther's Original kind of butter candy type thing out of this beer, and again, this is kind of common in a number of New England IPAs these days. In my mind, I would hazard a guess that it's the Maris Otter that's going to give it that. It is Maris Otter Extra Pale, so there's not really a brown sugary orientated malt in this one, but yeah, the chip malt from what I remember also gives you quite a kind of bready character there, sort of crisp, grainier white bread. But yeah, the aroma out of this one I think is very, very interesting. So yeah, the malty base comes across as a wee bit different I think to the other ones. There's a little bit more peaty bite to it and a bit more bread if you like, but it could just be the fact, as I say, that I've not had an IPA from these guys in a little while. But yeah, enough of the kind of Apex signature crackery yeasty sort of thing to this one, but a few other things going on as well in my opinion. But a nice malt and yeasty combination in the backbone of the beer with this one. Hoppy side of things then. So on the green component, there's definitely a wee bit of earthiness there. That's the mosaic that's going to give you that. There is a nice big floral aromaticity to it as well. I wouldn't call it spicy, but it's a very bright floral aromaticity that comes out of this one. There's a lovely big bright floral aromaticity that comes out of this beer. So yeah, I really like how that goes together. The beer actually comes across as really nice and bright and fresh in a sense, and I've been craving a floral, a kind of more floral leaning IPA over the last little while, but this one really is very nice. Big, bright floral aromaticity. There's quite a bit of a grassy, zesty sort of thing to this one as well, and I would say that grassy zestiness is most likely to come from Citra. But remember, your New England IPAs are dependent on late addition hops during the wort boil within the last half hour or so. Your early edition hops, of course, are the ones that give you the bitterness. West Coast IPAs have a lot more early edition hops than their New England counterparts, but yeah, your later edition hops are the ones that give you the flavour and aroma, and you're getting a lot of the you're getting a big, as I say, citrusy, zesty character out of this one, which I think is quite nice. I can't remember what Sabro's green component is like, but Citra and Mosaic, of course, I do know quite well. But yeah, the green component for me has a nice bright grassy zestiness to it and a big floral aromatic component. The fruity notes in this beer are kind of what you would expect, to be honest. For me, pardon me, there's a teeny little bit of a more pungent passion fruit, which we can sometimes get from Citra, but quite a bit of mango in there. And then you can smell that sort of coconutty thing that is the kind of trademark of Sabro. You can kind of smell that, but you get a lot of orange off this one, and these two hops combining together actually make the kind of orangey tangerine notes very zesty, I think. And it's maybe that, it could be those two kind of combining that's giving me the impression that the grass is a little bit more kind of zesty in this one, but there is maybe a wee tiny little hint of lime under there. But fruity notes, like I say, wee bit of passion fruit, a good juicy mango in there, and quite a lot of, you know, bright orangey tangerine sort of vibes, and then a wee bit of coconut underneath from the Sabro, of course. But yeah, wee tiny bit of lime as well, I think, in this one. So yeah, this is going to be quite interesting, I think. Let's get the rest of it into the glass and we'll get on with the tasting then. So as I always say, take a bit of time to ponder over the aroma, pardon me, ponder over the aroma of your beers before you get stuck into them. That's half the experience, of course. But yeah, this one is the Trident IPA, a 6.5% New Englander once again, from Apex Brewing Company in Nora, just to the north of Örebro, here in Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, and cheers. There we go. Yeah, it's very, very nice. Yeah, very solid New England IPA once again. Wouldn't expect anything less from this brewery, right enough. This one does strike me on first impression as being one of the more oily Apex ones that I've had. I would say that about this beer. Strikes me as a wee bit more oily than the other ones we've had in the past. Even when I think about the doubles, and I've had triple IPAs from Apex as well, of course. But yeah, this one definitely strikes me as a little bit more oily than the others for sure. But it's got that signature malt base to it, that sort of, I say malt base, it's the yeast that plays quite a role in that too, but it's definitely got the same kind of malty, yeasty backbone to it as we've had from Apex in the past. But yeah, certainly gets a thumbs up from me. Helicopters out, I guess. There we go. But yeah, where do we start with this one? We'll just go through it as we usually do. But yeah, the backbone of this beer is definitely that nice kind of smooth Jacob's cream crackery sort of thing that I was talking about. You get that there. So you can feel the yeast, the kind of yeasty part of this beer just blanketing that sort of middle part of the palate, if you like. So there's a soft kind of white bready sort of thing. The further you go into the aftertaste, it's got a little bit of a kind of Jacob's cream crackery sort of element to it, which I can certainly appreciate. So yeah, you've got the yeasty sort of backbone in the middle of your palate, the Jacob's cream cracker in there, and then on the front half of that middle third of your palate, you do start to get one or two little woody elements coming out of the beer. So yeah, I like it for sure. Yeah, the malty yeasty part of this beer, as I say, it just goes together really well, this one. I like what they've done with this. It does, as I say, come across a little bit differently. I think the bread is kind of thickening up in this as well. So on top of that kind of yeasty layer there, you can smell the sort of smoother wheat. I might be mixing up the wheat with the yeast, actually. So I think it's the wheat. Yeah, I think the thing that's smoothing out the sort of crackery backbone to the beer is the wheat. The wheat comes across as very soft in this, and I think the chip malt will be playing a part in this as well. But on top of that, you get a slightly smoother, kind of soft white bready element to it. You've got a good little bit of a kind of oaty creaminess sitting there. So in the middle third of your palate, you've got a nice kind of big circle there, and there's a big thicker oaty creaminess to this one. And then on top of that, you can feel there is a little circle right in the dead centre of your palate, and that's a sort of Werther's Original kind of kind of butter candy type thing, actually. So yeah, I do like how that how that goes together in this one, that's for sure. But yeah, it's really nice in that sense. As I say, I feel this beer, the kind of breadiness that you get in this one, the slight thickness from the breadiness, I think goes together really nicely. And then, as I say, on top of that, you feel the nice oaty note in there, and then just a little touch of sweetness in the middle, in the very dead centre of your palate. So you can feel that this beer is very, very layered in that sense, which I really enjoy. But if you go to either end of that middle third of your palate as well, you do get a wee bit more of a kind of bread crusty element in there. So yeah, that's definitely worth picking out about this one. But I think that covers the middle third of your palate quite well, to be honest with you. I think that covers it quite kind of succinctly. But as I say, border region between middle third of your palate and back third of your palate, you get a wee bit of bready build up and a wee bit of bread crusty character there. Then the base of that kind of back third of your palate again is the sort of crackery and you know, the kind of crackery note and a little bit of that very light wheat and chip malt sort of thing. On top of that, of course, you get a little bit of the slightly thicker bready notes, and then on top of that you get the more airy, yeasty elements out of this one, that slightly farmhousey vibe that the Apex beers always have, and that I would say is their kind of signature thing. So when you start at the back of the palate in this beer, you can feel the flavour is a little bit taller, but as you move further forward, it kind of condenses down. Then as you go into the middle third of your palate, when you go into the middle third of your palate, these flavours just kind of condense down a little bit, and it feels a wee bit thicker. But then yeah, when you move forward on that, it comes across really nicely. And like I say, the further you go into the aftertaste with this one, the breadiness sort of thickens up, and you do get a nice kind of smoothness out of this beer, that's for sure. So yeah, it goes together very, very nicely. Yeah, the aroma of this beer, or the flavour of this beer goes together very, very nicely in that sense. So yeah, good malty and yeasty note there, and it feels a little bit thicker, this one, to me, than some of the other ones I've had in the past from Apex, but certainly works. I really like this. On the hoppy side of things then, let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer. Back corners of the palate, you've definitely got a little bit of earthiness in there. That's the mosaic that's going to give you that, of course, but as you move further forward, it gets a little bit herbal, and as you push towards the kind of front corners of the palate, it's distinctly lighter and floral in a sense, so you get a nice bright floral aromaticity out of the beer. Then round the front curve of the palate, there's some lighter grassy elements out of it, a nice kind of citrusy, zesty type thing. So yeah, I really like how that goes together in this beer for sure. But yeah, fruity, the lighter grassy sort of thing on this is very, very nice actually. So yeah, the green component of this one for me is quite nice. It's not too pungent, but you know, it comes across really bright. It's not spicy or anything like that, but you just get this lovely bright floral aromaticity out of the beer, and I can really appreciate how that contributes to this one. So big thumbs up to Apex for the green component on this. It just really strikes me. Sometimes you get beers like this where you're just like, right, that's right up my alley. It just ticks the boxes, and this one certainly does that. So yeah, thumbs up to Apex Brewing Company for this. Actually, this beer is pretty damn solid in that from that perspective. So yeah, awesome. But yeah, on the should we say, on the fruity side of things then, so front third of your palate then, it's really nice. As I say, the fruity character in this beer is a little bit more oily, but yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get a little bit of a bready build up in there, a wee bit of a kind of bread crusty character, and the base of that kind of front third of your palate is a more smooth white bready character in there. You can feel the sort of kind of wheaty character, and there's also that kind of smooth that kind of bready chitty sort of thing, so I like that. And then on top of that, of course, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And if you know these three hops, this one really isn't doing anything surprising, but it's just a really good combination, and it suits the overall vibe of the beer. So if you go to the back of that front third of your palate, you definitely get a little bit more of a kind of pungent passion fruit to it. And as you move further forward, there's a more juicy mango type quality to this one. Then when you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, that's when you get a more kind of coconutty base to the beer. There is a little bit of a kind of coconutty vibe in there. Then on top of that, you get a little bit, you get the mix of the mosaic and the Sabro in there. So the coconut comes from the Sabro, of course, but you can feel those two big orangey, tangerine hops mixing together, and it really gives you quite a zesty, citrusy quality there. There's maybe a tiny little hint of lime or something just behind the very front tip of the tongue and the grassy esters, which could be from the Citra. But yeah, the zestiness on this beer on the fruity side of things does build the further you go into the aftertaste. There could be just a little touch of pineapple to this one, kind of creeping over the orangey flavours in the beer as well. But I'd really say, yeah, it's mango. It's a lot of oily mango, and then quite a big orangey zesty kind of character with a wee bit of the Sabro-y coconut sitting underneath. I think that sort of summarises the fruity profile of this beer quite succinctly, to be honest with you. But yeah, this definitely, compared to other beers that we've had from Apex before, I think this one is a bit thicker in its malt base, and it's a little bit more oily, actually. So yeah, I think that's what my kind of take home would be from this one. But another lovely IPA from these guys, which is what we've come to expect. I think we can move on to the mouthfeel now then. So yeah, as I've said, I've just made that statement there. But yeah, overall, this beer, once again, it's mid-bodied. The carbonation is very smooth in this beer. This beer for me has a little bit more oiliness and slickness, as I've said, compared to other ones we've had from Apex before, but I like what they've done with it. It does have a nice vibe, and it's kind of refreshing, I guess you could say, to see them do something a little bit different. But yeah, mid-bodied, smooth yet slightly slick beer. This one a little bit more oily. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I think this is a fairly standard, 25 or 30 IBUs. Absolutely, it's got a lovely green component to it. But yeah, the malt base in this one is lovely and smooth, and as I say, you get a wee bit of sweetness off this the further you go into the aftertaste, which I really like. Then you've got those lovely oily, kind of juicy, fruity characters coming out of the beer as well. And this one, it's got a big oily, fruity note to it, this one, and I like the slightly more zesty character that the beer has as well. So I mean, overall, it's just a really nicely executed New England IPA, and that is exactly what we've come to expect from Apex Brewing Company over the last couple of years. So thumbs up to them once again. I think that sums up this beer quite nicely. So yeah, we can leave it there. This one is the Trident IPA, a 6.5% New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, from Apex Brewing Company in Nora near Örebro, just a little bit further north of me here in the south, in Sweden, of course, out to the west of Stockholm, I guess you could say, 1/3 of the way up the country. That's what I'm looking for. But yeah, another lovely beer, this one, and definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. But yeah, let's leave it. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Till the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Apex Brewing Company as well. And we will return to these guys very soon. I've no doubt about that. I think they're releasing a few more IPAs next month, so we'll see about picking up those. But thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Apex Brewing Company's social media, and I'll see you guys on the next one. The Trident IPA, 6.5% ABV from Apex Brewing Company in Nora near Örebro here in Sweden. Slange, skull, and cheers.